Understanding the fundamentals is key to improving your Midjourney prompting, and today we're diving into one of the most critical skills, mastering different camera shot types in your prompts. We'll look at subject orientation, camera shot distance, and camera angle, and at the end we'll bring it all together by creating multiple shots for a single character reference. So make sure you give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's go through some camera shot basics. So let's start with subject orientation. First, we have the front shot. This is one of the most fundamental angles for portraying a character. Here, the subject faces the camera directly and we have a clear look at their facial expression. Using front shot at the beginning of the prompt works well with tall aspect ratios, but can get less consistent as you stretch to wider aspect ratios. If that happens, get more specific with your prompt. For example, front shot of a woman in a blue room, she is looking directly at the camera. I still use the phrase front shot, but I reinforce that by including that she is looking at the camera. Next, we have the side or side profile shot. Here, the subject is in profile view, emphasizing outline and form over facial expression. Both of these phrases work well for tall and wide aspect ratios. This is probably the easiest, most consistent shot type to get when it comes to subject orientation. Next, we can also place the camera behind the character to show context but hide facial expression. Using the phrase back shot or back view works well for both tall and wide aspect ratios. And it's worth noting that I'm putting these subject orientation words at the beginning of the prompt where they'll be most impactful, but that doesn't mean that you can't rearrange the word order and still get the image that you want. Then we have the 3/4 view. Here, the subject is at an angle between front and side view, balancing form and facial expression. This one is probably the most difficult to get out of the 4 orientations. I've found the most success by using the phrase 3/4 shot at the beginning of the prompt. This usually gives me about a 50-50 chance of getting images with the correct subject position. Also, I just want to mention that I'm typically including the word shot in these prompts, which implies photography. If you're working with something like illustrations, try using the word view instead of shot. Now that we can rotate around a character, let's move on to the next category, which is camera shot distance. Camera shot distance controls how tightly or loosely the subject is framed. Some of these are easier to achieve than others. I've picked 4 to cover in this video, but I'd be happy to make a more in-depth video if there's interest. Just let me know down in the comments. Let's start with extreme close-up. An extreme close-up tightly crops the character's face and adds intimacy and intensity. Extreme close-up images will typically show the character from the eyebrows down to the nose, unless you direct Midjourney to other features. Including extreme close-up at the beginning of the prompt results in pretty consistent framing for both tall and wide aspect ratios, although sometimes you might get a little bit more of the face with tall aspect ratios. Next, we'll move out slightly to the close-up shot. The close-up shot frames just the head or face, drawing focus to facial expressions. Using the phrase close-up shot or close-up portrait shot tend to result in images that show most of the character's face from the eyebrows to below the mouth. For a more zoomed out view, try medium close portrait shot. Okay, stepping into a bit of a gray area, we have the medium shot. The medium shot typically frames the character from the waist up, and we get more context around the subject, such as what clothing they're wearing and a little bit about the environment. The medium shot is a bit tricky to prompt for because if we go back to our diagram for a second, we have medium shots that are more zoomed in, and we have some that are more zoomed out. Because there are multiple types of medium shots, this means that Midjourney is going to have a harder time understanding what you want. To get a true medium shot from the waist up, I've had the best luck with prompting for 2/3 body and 2/3 full body. Just saying medium shot tends to give me more zoomed in portraits. And if you're working with a tall aspect ratio, I've found this more detailed prompt to be even more successful. Next, we have the full body image. Here, the complete body of the character is visible and we have more background and scene context. It's often easier to get a full body image of a character if you use a tall aspect ratio because they're similar shapes. By using the phrase full body shot at the beginning of a prompt, usually about half of my results are full body. I've noticed that it seems to be more successful with male characters. What often works even better is to be more descriptive. Describe what the character is wearing from head to toe and be sure to include the shoes. Or give more information about the surrounding environment. This is actually the approach that I think works best because you're forcing Midjourney to consider the surroundings and not just what the character is wearing, so it's more likely to push the camera further away from the character. I think camera distance is probably one of the more difficult things to accomplish in Midjourney by just using simple phrases. The more of the character that you want visible, the better it will be to start with a taller aspect ratio, but also consider taking advantage of Midjourney's zoom out and pan features. Focus on the subject orientation and camera angle, which we'll cover next, and then zoom out or pan depending on what you want. This is a great quick way to get a full body image without as much struggle prompting. In addition to subject orientation and camera shot distance, we have some control over perspective and point of view. Midjourney commonly defaults to eye level or slightly below eye level point of view unless your prompt tells it to do otherwise. Here are a few other angles that you can try. First is the low angle shot, where the camera points upwards, making subjects look larger and more imposing. Using the phrase low angle shot at the beginning of the prompt works pretty well for both tall and wide aspect ratios. For a more exaggerated or wide angle perspective, you can try using wide angle at the beginning of a prompt. However, the phrase wide angle can be a bit context dependent. When I prompted for a wide angle shot of a person in a room, I got a full body image and some of the room. But when I prompted for a wide angle photo of a person, I got a more medium close-up shot. This prompt just includes the character, while this one places them into a room. In real life, both of these images could be taken with a wide angle lens. So keep in mind that the phrase wide angle is going to rely more on the context of your prompt. Next, we have fisheye, which refers to a type of lens with a perspective so wide that it creates a barrel distortion effect around the edges. This is a prompt phrase that Midjourney handles really well. You can see that curvature and warping around the outer edges here. It's an interesting perspective that can create some unique images. Then we have the high angle shot where the camera shoots downward. This can make the subjects look smaller and convey vulnerability. Using high angle shot in the prompt generally works okay, but you'll find that Midjourney sometimes confuses this with an overhead shot where the camera is directly above the character, which is also a high angle. Using 2/3 high angle shot or medium high angle shot can sometimes help correct this. But in general, I find it difficult to get Midjourney to place the camera somewhere between overhead and eye level without it being too high. If you have a prompt phrase that works for you, let me know down in the comments. And if you want to go for a perspective that's even higher above the character, try using drone shot, wide angle drone shot, or extreme long drone shot at the beginning of your prompt. These phrases will give you a really nice aerial perspective of a character and the surrounding environment. So we've covered ways to change subject orientation, camera shot distance, and camera angle, and you can get really creative by combining multiple shot types. Of course, some phrases will play nicer together than others. And with Midjourney's character reference feature, you can create images of the same character from different perspectives and start building out that visual story that you've always wanted to tell. Here are a few different images that I created with this character. I used a 3/4 shot as my character reference. Depending on the subject orientation that you want, it can be helpful to give Midjourney multiple character reference images or just one that has the subject orientation you want. If you want to know more about character reference, I'll link to my character reference deep dive video down below. Now, I focused on character images in this video, but you can use a lot of these shot phrases for other types of images as well. And for more prompt inspiration, please check out my free guides and other prompt series videos, and let me know if you'd like me to cover more shot types and/or troubleshooting tips in a future video. Remember, zoom out and pan are your friends, especially if you're struggling with camera shot distance. As always, please be sure to like, subscribe, all the things. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.